Not every Pokemon region is created equally. We are all fully familiar with regions like Kanto, Hoenn and Galar, while I would estimate most of you, but not all, have heard of say Or from the Shadow Pokemon titles or Almia from the second Pokemon Ranger game. There is however a region out there that none of us have ever visited, one that does originate from a game but not one of the video variety. In 2005, the Pokémon Trading Card Game decided world building was missing from their money-making formula and crafted a brand new region known as Holon. Even though it was short-lived, it is still a region with a surprising amount of depth and lore, so I suggest we don't waste another second and turn our clocks back almost 10 years to 2005. Pokémon Emerald was about a year old in Japan at the time, and Diamond and Pearl would release only a year later, so we're looking at a time where Generation 3 was getting a little stale. The Pokémon were not really new anymore, and we had visited Hoenn 2 times already at this point, so I suppose the folks behind the trading card game figured why not shake things up a little. Now, the release order of the sets that build up the region of Holon is inconsistent between the West and Japan, but I suggest we just follow along with Japan for this video, since it is the most logical build-up and the one native to the creators after all. Which means the seeds of a brand new region first get planted in the summer of 2005, when EX Legend Maker released in Japan. Now, in the West, this expansion doesn't really revolve or even hint at a new region whatsoever, but in Japanese, the name of this set is Mirage Forest. According to the Japanese promo website, it is the location of this expansion and the habitat of the Pokemon featured in it. We only ever get sights of it through the stadium cards of this set, like the Giant Stump, Strange Cave and Power Tree, all of which are presumably located in the Mirage Forest. Now, at the time, this must have felt like a random footnote for Japanese fans. They could have never expected what would happen next. In October of the same year, a new expansion was released titled EX Delta Species, and this was the big one. It introduces us to the region of Holon, which is located in the middle of the Mirage Forest. The most prominent landmark of this place is the Holon Research Tower, which is so prominent the set is literally called that in Japanese. According to the promo text of this set, the research tower serves as a lab where scientists, as depicted in these cards, conduct research into new and other special Pokémon. A core part of this involves electricity and electromagnetic waves, as can be seen on the tower itself, and is prevalent in the presence of Voltorb in one of the trainer cards and the inclusion of Holon's Magnemite and Magneton in this set. One of the experiments with electromagnetism goes wrong, however, causing the Pokemon living and existing around the research tower to become exposed to the radiation and mutate into something brand new: Delta Species. These Pokemon have their types altered, with the Pokemon living around the research tower mostly taking on the lightning and metal types. Take for example these lightning type Metang and Dragonair, or this metal Eevee. As they evolve, most Pokemon combine their natural types with metal. Take for example this Beedrill and Gardevoir, although some are also influenced by the lightning type. Even Latias and Latios aren't immune. So yeah, if you thought Paldea and Terrestrialization did type changing first, I'm sorry to say you're wrong. The scientists at the research laboratory dubbed these new discoveries as Delta Pokemon, which is a reference to this being the fourth type of Pokemon in the TCG, after the normal Pokemon, Pokemon EX and Pokemon Star, which are shiny Pokemon. Delta is Latin for 4 after all. Following this event in the center of the region of Holon, these Delta Pokemon would be, to quote the blurb that came with the expansion, free for trainers to put to the test. In order to do so, new energies were created that also tap into the electromagnetic energy of the Holon region. Now, of course, the Pokémon Company could have just stopped here and let the Holon Research Tower serve as a bit of backstory to the existence of Delta Species and leave it at that. But the opposite happened. At the start of 2006, a new expansion was released, known as EX Holon Phantoms Worldwide. The story of this expansion is that after the events of the Holon Research Tower, we are now allowed to explore the region of Holon at our heart's content, venturing deeper into the region. The blurb even clarifies we're heading further south specifically. What we find there is once again told best by the trainer cards of this expansion. We presumably join a Holon adventurer into the depths of the region, where we discover Holon Lake, which is surrounded by a mountain range. Here we find fossils that correspond to the fossil Pokemon of Generation 1 and 3. These fossils have also been affected by the Delta species phenomenon, as can be seen with this Dark-typed Lileep or Fire-typed Aerodactyl, which can be seen flying over Holon Lake, which presumably even houses a Fire-typed shiny Gyarados. But wait, weren't most fully evolved Pokémon part Metal-type? Well, yes, around the research tower that was the effect it had. But as we go further and further from the source of it all, more and more Pokémon can be found that are not lightning or metal type at all, even fully evolved Pokémon and legendaries like Rayquaza, which became a water type, possibly due to residing around Holon Lake as well. This set also introduces a new energy, known as the Delta Rainbow Energy. It is linked to the only new Holon's Pokémon of this expansion, which is a cast form, whose various forms apparently mutated into an entirely new form of the previously existing Rainbow Energy. A few months later, the Holon region would be expanded again, in a way that wasn't apparently accounted for when the design of the region was released. EX Crystal Guardians, or Miracle Crystal in Japan, takes us to an island that is considered part of the Holon region, despite a sea not being visible on any of the released materials for it, and it apparently being quite far away. However, this island was also influenced by the experiments at the Holon Research Tower, but due to the distance being even greater, only 3 Delta species on this island still have the dual metal typing. It is mentioned in the expansion's blurb that the normal Pokémon and Delta Pokémon live together in harmony on the island, which is covered in crystals with mysterious powers. We find them on Crystal Beach, we find them in caves, and we find them on mountains, as depicted in the art for Holon Circle, which confirms a connection to the Holon region. The powers of these cards are the result of the crystals, but they don't interact with the Delta species in any way, confirming there is no connection between the phenomenon and these crystals. They are said to be guarded by the Crystal Guardians, however, but it is not entirely clear which Pokémon from the expansion these are supposed to be. The wording is quite vague, it could be any or even all really. As such, we never really find answers to these crystals and how exactly they influence the island and the region of Holon as a whole, because by the next set we have traveled even further beyond the horizon. Introducing EX Dragon Frontiers, or Offense and Defense at the Furthest Ends in Japanese. This set takes place on an archipelago, far away from Holon, yet still considered part of the region. This connection is confirmed through the inclusion of the Holon Legacy Stadium card, which depicts some sort of symbolic ground that is apparently connected to the main region in some way. Perhaps it's near where the Holon travelers arrive to claim the land. That said, the inclusion of the Island Hermit card does suggest that he and perhaps his kind may be the original residents of these dragon-themed islands. But even more interesting in all this is that this island group features natural Delta species Pokémon with completely altered types. No more focus on lightning and metal, which was the result of the Research Tower incident. All Pokémon here can have any type. In fact, every single Pokémon found on the Isles is a Delta species Pokémon. There is not a single normal Pokémon to be found here. Even EXs and shiny Pokémon, which had so far not been consistently Delta species forms, now all have strange types. Take for example this dark shiny Charizard, or water-typed Salamence EX. Another interesting twist, thanks to the Delta species phenomenon being natural here, can be found with this steel-typed Ampharos. It has a special ability, known as Pokebody in the TCG, being Holon Veil, which allows every Pokémon in your deck to be treated as a Delta species for all intents and purposes. This is the only Pokémon in all these sets to have a Pokebody or Pokepower, as is another type of ability, that ties into Delta species, hinting that Pokémon affected by the Research Tower radiation weren't able to develop these, but natural Delta species can. The next set after EX Dragon Frontiers would put an end to the Delta species phenomenon and the region of Holon, as it was appropriately titled Diamond and Pearl. There were bigger things to focus on now. While we have never seen Holon again, and we most likely never will, the region wasn't the first or last of its kind. Before it, we had seen the Southern Islands during Gen 1, the Puzzle Continent in Gen 2, and later we even got the Parallel Worlds featured in Gen 6. What makes Holon different from those, however, is that it has actual lore, an actual storyline as to what is happening here, while the others are more similar to the later islands containing Delta species. Yeah, we know of their geography and nature, which is cool, but there is no story to them, no native inhabitants living their life. Because make no mistake, Holon City may have sounded like a highly developed research lab of sorts, but the region also has humble farmers and young lasses, like every other main game region. It has truly made Holon one of a kind, a region you can understandably forget, but should also be celebrated as something very cool. Anyway, I hope you learned something new. Have any thoughts on this mysterious Pokemon region? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel to stay updated on all my future Pokemon content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.